Hey, 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 happy Wednesday. Come on in, pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, 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 gang. Welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host, here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch, brought to you by, amazingly enough, thegaminggang.com, which I happen to be the founder and editor-in-chief. So 7 is our lucky number tonight because it is Wednesday, April 13th, 2022. This is live stream 777. This is your first time joining me. Keep in mind, super casual around here. Just hanging out, talking about the latest in tabletop gaming news and taking a look at a gaming release. Sometimes it's a board game, sometimes it's a role-playing game. Every once in a while, it's a review. But tonight, I am going to wrap up the live edition of GMT Wargames week. I will talk a little bit about what else is in store this week as we take a look at Vietnam 1965 to 1975 from the aforementioned GMT Games. This is a new printing of the classic Victory Games title, which is considered one of the best Vietnam games ever created. So we are going to be taking a look at this a little bit later on in the show. Of course, if this is your first time joining me, also keep in mind that we start off by taking a look at the latest in tabletop gaming news. So if you are watching live because you want to see the unboxing for Vietnam 1965 to 1975, kick back, relax, probably be about 25 minutes or so, and we will get to that unboxing. But if you are watching the stream half hour or more after it's ended, you'll actually have timestamps. So you can jump right to the unboxing if you'd like to skip the tabletop gaming news. A lot of people, first time they check out the show, don't realize that. So I am reminding folks out there that if you're watching after the live stream is over, you should be able to have timestamps in the show notes. And depending on the device that you happen to be watching on, it might even be right there in the timeline of the video. So if you like this video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, ding that bell. It will not only let you know when the Gaming Gang Dispatch streams live Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday evenings at 7 p.m. Central right here on YouTube. I'll also let you know when I upload other videos, such as my upcoming first look at cryptid urban legends. Is it legends? Yeah, it is plural. I was like, is it legend or legends? I reviewed Cryptid a while back, and I actually thought it was a very cool kind of deductive game. And this is similar, but a much smaller footprint. And I believe this is for 2 players. So I am going to be taking a peek at that. That's going to be a standalone video. That should probably be up this weekend. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more. Once again, if you are a big RPG fan, there are a lot of role-playing game reviews that are on there that you don't have access to here on the channel because they're not video reviews. They are written reviews. So especially if you're a big fan of like Traveler. I've got some Traveler 2300 reviews on the horizon. If you're a big Pathfinder fan, there's a lot of reviews about the Strength of Thousands adventure path. In fact, all 6 parts. Those are all written reviews. So please keep that in mind. And of course, this is a live stream. So if you are watching live, there is chat available. It's not on screen. It's one of the ways that I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. Also, you have to be a subscriber to the channel for at least 48 hours in order to take part in chat. Another way that I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. But if you want to say howdy, maybe you got a question, a comment, by all means, please chime in. I will do my best to respond. First out the gate tonight was John Vogel. Yes, John's happy it's a War Game Wednesday. It's been War Game Week featuring GMT Games. And after this show, you're still going to have more videos to check out. John Vogel is with us. Flaming Huron, who is one of our chat moderators, so behave, is hanging out. Doug Roberts is with us. Coco B is says 777, the number of the released. Yeah, game releases, right? That's what we're talking about, aren't we? So we got chat off and running. Sweet. Very nice. Very nice. So let's jump on into the news, because hitting stores in August is It's a Wonderful Kingdom. Here's a scoop from Lucky Duck Games. It's a Wonderful Kingdom is a standalone solo or 2-player game in a low fantasy universe. Inspired by the core mechanics of its predecessor, It's a Wonderful World, this new game offers more interaction, a bluff mechanism, and new challenges. The game is played using modules, each different and offering mechanical twists. Each game, players will choose one of the different modules to compete against each other. The game is divided into 4 rounds, each round having 3 phases. Those phases are Split and Trap. Players take turns placing their cards on 2 piles at the center of the table. One player picks 2 cards from his hand, places it in either the same pile or splits it among the 2 piles. The other player chooses a pile. This step is repeated alternatively until the players have placed all the cards from their hands. Furthermore, each player has 2 trap tokens, which can be used to place face-down cards. Then we've got planification. Each player chooses, for the cards he has collected, which ones to build and which ones to recycle in order to accelerate the development. Then we have sequential production. Each player produces the resources of his kingdom in a sequential way. The resources being produced in a certain order. It's necessary to anticipate the sequences to optimize the production and development. At the end of the 4th round, the player with the most victory points is the winner. It's a Wonderful Kingdom is once again for 1 or 2 players, ages 14 and up, plays in around 45 to 60 minutes, and will carry an MSRP of $44.99 when it arrives this summer. Yes, I gotta say, and you might be wondering if you were watching last night, you're like, wait a second, didn't Jeff have a news piece from Lucky Duck Games last night? What are they, a sponsor of the show now? No, it's just that they've got some interesting stuff on the horizon. And as I've said before, I don't necessarily tackle the news of products coming out that everybody else is sharing news pieces about. I like to share some more unusual titles, or titles that I think deserve some more love. And I love the fact that this is kind of a low fantasy setting. So it's a fantasy setting, but low fantasy. So that sounds pretty interesting. Probably it kind of looks a bit like a sword and sorcery sort of Hyborian Age kind of game. That's my guess here. And definitely dig the artwork as well. Moving on to our next news piece. Arriving in stores next week is the highly anticipated War of the Ring expansion, The Fate of Erebor. And here's the latest from Ares Games. What if the Battle of Five Armies was lost by the Free Peoples? The Fate of Erebor, a mini expansion for War of the Rings 2nd Edition, allows to play an alternative scenario of the game. Previously announced as a bonus to be included in the first printing of the revised edition of the Battle of Five Armies. When playing the War of the Ring board game, we assume the historical outcome for the Battle of Five Armies. The Fate of Erebor is a variant which you play assuming the Shadow player won the Battle of Five Armies. Damn you, Shadow player. Frodo must have messed up. Nice going, Frodo. Thanks a lot. Of course, that would change the course of Lord of the Rings history drastically. With a few subtle changes, the mini expansion adapt the game to this possible outcome, featuring a rule sheet, 4 board overlay tiles to place on the game board, and 8 alternate cards. War of the Ring, the Fate of Erebor is for 2 to 4 players, ages 12 and up, plays in around 2 to 3 hours. It does carry an MSRP of $9.90. And of course, telling you the number of players and the ages and playtime, we are talking about War of the Ring, which you need to own to be able to do anything with this expansion. I remember last Gen Con, oh my gosh, why is that coming up? What in the world? Hang on. Hey, maybe Lucky Duck Games is sponsoring today's show. I specifically removed the extra slides here because I have some news pieces that don't use my usual 5. I like to try to share 5 images for each game release. But to be honest, really isn't anything to see for this. That's to know. Anyway, I was going to say, I remember at last Gen Con, my best friend Elliot Miller reminded me 3 times by text, don't forget to pick up the Fate of Erebor for him. And of course, he texted me before the exhibit hall opened. Then he texted me again. Well, first he texted me the night before. Then it was after it had opened. And then he texted me the next day to see if I had gotten it. And of course, it did not make it to Gen Con. So that's why I said this is a highly, highly anticipated mini expansion because a lot of people had been waiting. I mean, this was delayed a lot. But it hits stores next week. Fingers crossed, as far as I know. That's at least what distributors are saying. So let's talk a little bit about some role-playing game news because there is a pretty big news piece arriving this month. Yes, we actually do have a release date, or 2 release dates, actually. I'll talk about that in a second. We have a release date from Penguin Publishing because on the horizon is the Marvel Multiverse role-playing game playtest rulebook. Say that 5 times fast. Here's the details from the House of Ideas. Heading to a universe near you. Get ready for a tabletop RPG like you've never seen before. The new Marvel Multiverse role-playing game provides infinite storylines and endless possibilities for the Marvel characters you know and love. Take on the roles of Marvel's most famous superheroes, or create your own to fight some of the most dangerous supervillains in the Marvel Universe. Featuring the all-new, all-different D616 system, named that way because of the 616 universe. The playtest rulebook gives players the chance to play the game, including character creation and combat, while shaping the future of the game via player feedback. The book also includes an introductory scenario and full profiles for some of Marvel's greatest heroes: Spider-Man, Captain America, Captain Marvel, Wolverine, and more. Play as an existing Marvel superhero or create your own hero or villain and build your own Marvel multiverse saga with your friends. Characters will be built using stats such as might, agility, resilience, vigilance, ego, and logic. 3 standard 6-sided dice are needed for play. Gameplay will be governed by the all-new, all-different D616 system developed exclusively by Marvel. Here's a hint. Rolling 616 will yield fantastic results. The playtest rulebook contains an exciting adventure as well as everything you need in order to build a character. Once you've begun your campaign, there will be instructions to drop Marvel a line. Your feedback may be factored into the core rulebook and subsequent releases. This 120-page playtest rulebook is going to carry an MSRP of $9.99 when it arrives on April 20th or the 19th. It is showing a release date of April 19th on Amazon. And on Amazon, you'll be able to order the Kindle edition and receive it on the 19th. That's why I'm kind of thrown off, because the official release date is supposed to be April 20th. So it's kind of like, So this is something that a lot of people are really excited about. It is authored by Matt Forbeck. So it's got some designer cred to it, some role-playing designer cred. And I'm curious how well this is going to do. Because for one, this is coming from Marvel. This is not coming from some outside company like a TSR was or a Margaret Weiss Productions was. So very, very interesting. So I'm a little disappointed that the digital release is not going to be free. I think that's unfortunate, because I think it would have been a great move for Marvel to release this in PDF absolutely free. I think that would have been a very good marketing ploy. I mean, I understand playtest rule book, physical book, you're going to pay for it. We've seen that before. We saw that with Pathfinder, 2nd edition. So that's kind of par for the course. But the PDFs for playtest, 5th edition D&D, 2nd edition Pathfinder, and more are almost always free. So little disappointed with that, but I am super interested in checking this out. And I would love to see a really solid Marvel role-playing game out there. I thought Margaret Weiss Productions was fine. I like the fact how they had the storylines released as supplements. So you had like Civil War. So I thought that was very cool. If I remember right, I think Young Avengers was another one. There were a few releases, and then, I don't know, just didn't really go over too well. Melwinius from York has joined us in chat. Good to see you, Mel. We haven't seen you in a bit. So let's see what's going on in chat before I move on. So Flaming Heron says, as long as it's good. Flaming Heron points out they still play old Marvel RPG. Phase Rip, isn't that what it's called? I mean, isn't that what people refer to it as? Phase Rip, FASERIP? I remember when the original Marvel superheroes came out and everything, it was all like color-coded charts and things like that. And of course, that came out when we weren't really, my friends and I really weren't playing much TSR stuff. But then didn't they follow that up with like a little more complex edition of Marvel superheroes? TSR, I'm saying. I could have swore. I might be wrong. I have no idea. But I swear, I could have swore that people refer to it as Phase Rip. In fact, I thought there are actually like free PDFs out there you can download without like the Marvel, just backing. And it's called Face Rip. Somebody in chat, if you happen to know, let me know. Or if you watch this after the fact, let me know in the comment section. So Malwinia says, I think this hero RPG is like 15 years too late, but it's nice to see it. Well, we did have a Marvel role-playing game. When did they lose that license? Maybe, gosh, it's got to be about 8 years ago. It's been a long time. Coco B says they just played the original TSR Marvel superheroes just this year. Very cool. Flaming Heron points out that they got the advanced one. So we're talking a little Marvel role-playing history here. And I got to say, I am absolutely not an expert on it. But I could have swore that there were lots of releases for this. Not this, what we're talking about now, but for TSR's Marvel superheroes throughout the run when TSR had the license to do Marvel. Because I thought I remember I saw something, this is a few years ago. Maybe it was on Wikipedia or something like that, but it had like a whole list of the different like expansions that came out. And it was like, holy cow. I had no idea. Sweet. But I'm pleased to see Marvel superheroes getting a new role-playing game on the horizon. It will not come out until next year. So it is not slated to release until 2023, but starting on the 19th or 20th, you'll be able to get your hands on the playtest edition. All right, so let's talk a little bit about our friends over at Paizo Inc. because they've revealed 2 new supplements that are arriving this fall. Here's the dope. First up is Pathfinder Lost Omens, Impossible Lands. In a land still scarred by a war between 2 undying archmages and their respective nations, reality defies the rules binding the rest of the world. Cities crafted by wishes and fields harvested by the walking dead lay in between lands where magic warps and twists with an undefinable will. Explore the history of immortal wizard kings, wield explosive and unusual technology, and channel awe-inspiring legends in a region where the present is still haunted by the past, and echoes of destruction still shudder across the minds and souls of those who brave the impossible lands. This hardcover is going to carry an MSRP of $59.99 when it arrives in October. Then we have Starfinder Interstellar Species. Bring an array of aliens, both weird and familiar, to your science fantasy adventures with Interstellar Species, the newest rulebook for the Starfinder role-playing game. This gorgeously illustrated reference provides deep dives on 25 playable Starfinder species, each with thematic player options usable by any character. Plus, new options for 7 Starfinder character classes. There's also a system for easily creating your own playable species and a catalog of around 100 thematic non-player characters ready to slot into any adventure. A new class, the Evolutionist, the Darwinist, allows you to transform yourself over time into an eldritch being, mechanized construct, sepulchral undead, or riot of biological potential. My gosh, he's a riot of biological potential, each with unique abilities and drawbacks, should you allow your transformation to grow out of control. This hardcover is going to carry an MSRP of $44.99 when it hits stores in November. Sweet. So I would have to take a guess that the Pathfinder Impossible Lands hardcover is going to have a pretty big page count because it's $59.99, and if you figure usual pricing for Paizo, because they haven't gone crazy increasing prices, they may, who knows, but I'm thinking we're probably looking at a book that's 350 pages. That's my stab in the dark. And then, of course, the Starfinder Interstellar Species. It's player options, player characters. So that book is going to do well with the Starfinder crowd. All right, on to the last news piece. We talked last night about a Trail of Cthulhu release, and I promised I would talk about the other Trail of Cthulhu release, which is the Book of the New Jerusalem. Here's the skinny from Pelgrane Press. The Secret War is coming to England. Will you be ready? It is 1927. As Britain continues her slow recovery, August Darcy, a young journalist, is seized with a strange obsession. He must recover the very essence of England, her traditions, customs, and legends, and he must do that even at the cost of his livelihood, even if he loses the woman who is to be his wife. Then in the early 1930s, England experiences the first portents of a magical war. Darcy's mythic sites are the hidden battlefields, and that forbidden knowledge, the esoteric ordnance of the forthcoming conflict. The book is replete with mythic sites, occult rumors, and clues, which will guide you on your quest for forbidden knowledge. Within these covers are the never before published early writings of the author of the Book of the Smoke. Sketches of English life in his unique style are interspersed with private letters and diary extracts to offer an extraordinary insight into the victim of England's most notorious occult crime. These are not romantic yearnings for a golden age long gone, but a timely reminder that the terrors of our forefathers still linger on the fringe of modernity. Written as the companion volume to Fearful Symmetries, which we talked about last night. For Trail of Cthulhu, the Book of the New Jerusalem can be used as a keeper's resource as well as an in-game artifact for players in any Mythos game, and it stands alone as an entertaining guide to English folklore. The 264-page hardcover, which will include the PDF, is available to be, I think it's pre-order. I'm not positive. It might be in stock, but I think it is a pre-order, and it's right around the corner. It can be pre-ordered for $24.95, or you can grab the PDF by itself for $15.95. Sweet. As I mentioned last night, I was very happy to see more releases for Trail of Cthulhu because I've warmed to it a little more since my original review, I don't know, 11 years ago, which I was like, I liked the mechanics of the game, but I found like the scenarios that I ran across, it was like, okay, so where's the scares? It's like Lovecraftian role playing is supposed to be scary. It's not supposed to be like Dashiell Hammett stories. But I have warmed up to it a bit over the years. So I think it's a pretty cool game. I love the aspect of the mechanics where you're not rolling to find clues. So that is something that I think works really well as compared to, say, Call of Cthulhu, where if you're the keeper and you're not planning on fudging rolls, sometimes the player characters miss out on important clues. So, all righty. So that is it for the news tonight. Do want to remind everybody that even though we didn't talk about anything that's available over at Drive-Thru RPG, Gaming Gang, thus the Dispatch, is affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you're going to go visit Drive-Thru RPG or DM's Guild, Storyteller Vault, Wargame Vault, by all means, please stop by thegaminggang.com first. Click on one of our banner ads. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get a little portion of that sale. All those nickels, dimes, and quarters really do add up and help keep thegaminggang.com around. Also should mention, if you are going to a one bookshelf site that is not Drive-Thru RPG, please still use our links, because if you go to Drive-Thru RPG and scroll down, take a look at the left side of your screen, you will see links to the other websites. And if you click through that, our affiliate code still works. Nah. And of course, if you like this video, if you dig the channel, if you think thegaminggang.com is a valuable reference, hell, if you like what we do, you can always buy me a cup of coffee or some soda by visiting paypal.me/thegaminggang and making a small donation. And there are quite a lot of people who will go and use our Drive-Thru RPG links and who swing by PayPal to, make a little donation. And it's tremendously appreciated. Really, really is. Because I say this from time to time, I don't do Kickstarters to keep thegaminggang.com around. So it's not as if I'm constantly reaching into your pocket every year, be like, yes, yeah, you got to pay me to do this stuff. I'm independently wealthy. All right, we got some new folks hanging out in chat. 245 Trioxin is with us once again, and Omanal is with us. And as I pointed out before, Omanal is one of our PDF role-playing game reviewers. In fact, I've got a trio of Traveler 2300 AD reviews that I'm going to be sharing. So Omanal is with us as well. Flaming Heron says, yeah, prices are getting up there, but for him, shipping is always worse. Yes, in Australia. Flaming Heron says, head of GM used to carry all the Star Wars RPG books to our games. Mind you, he was also 20-something, so it wasn't as bad for him. But I'm sure his back must have hurt. Especially if those were all those West End games, Star Wars RPG releases. There were a lot. So Omanal says PDFs seem to have increased in price, but the paper is not quite so bad. Yeah, that whole increase in the prices for the PDFs, and yes, I get it. Artwork is not free, especially if you're not using stock art. But it's this attitude towards digital products having more value than they really do. Yes, I'm looking at you, NFTs. It's not a fan. Not a fan of the trend. Omanal says as a 9-year-old, they used to carry all the D&D books around and modules to school every day. Of course, they had 5 books and only a few modules at the time, he says. So Flaming Heron says, yeah, they print off PDFs, but find doing it once and the rest they leave to use on the tablet. Yeah, I can't really see. Well, unless it's like a 20-page adventure or something like that. Yeah, then I could see printing it off, especially if you're, using black and white or grayscale. Something more than that, because I have actually heard of people printing off like core rule books and things like that. And it's sort of like, really? Well, if you're going to go through that kind of cost, I would just buy the book. All righty. Oh, Flaming Heron says, no, it was the Fantasy Flight Games Star Wars books. But yeah, those would be pretty hefty too, because page counts were higher in those books, I believe, than West End. West End used to be, off the top of my head, because I had a few, couple hundred pages, 180, 225, somewhere in that vicinity, where I thought, now I got to be honest, I've never seen the Fantasy Flight Star Wars role-playing game books up close. I thought those clock in around 300 or so. I could be wrong. I have no idea. All righty. So that's the news for tonight. I do want to point out I will not be streaming next week. So I had mentioned this last week that I was kind of bouncing around, taking a break. Normally, every quarter, I will take a week off, and I figure, might as well. Might as well. Now, that doesn't mean I'm not going to be sharing videos of stuff. Just no live streams next week. That's all. So you guys can take a break from me. Hey, my buddy Scott Weagle is arrived. Yes, Scott and I go way back to high school. Good to see you, Scott. So we're going to actually be taking a look at a game tonight that Scott remembers. But first, before we do that, it's time for a brief intermission.
Pizza! Pizza, pizza, pizza. Everybody loves pizza, and we're now featuring the famous original Tolona pizza. Only the finest and purest ingredients go into the original Tolona pizza, made fresh to your order. And into the oven it goes. Presto, a luscious, hot, crispy pizza. We're now featuring... Hey, wait a minute. Give me another pizza. That's better. Now, as I was saying... We now have delicious, crispy Tolona pizza at the refreshment stand. What do you have? Cheese, sausage, or pepperoni? Take it away!
At our refreshment stand, your wish is our command. So the coffee we serve there is pure perfection.
This is a dill pickle, a mighty pretty pickle, especially when he joins you at the show. We have lots of pretty pickles waiting for you at the refreshment center. They're plump, tender, mouth-watering. Wouldn't one taste good right now?
Dogs are mighty good this way, but when you're here at the theater, hot dogs are at their best. We start with the choicest franks, cook them until they're just right, make available your favorite seasonings, and leave the rest to you. Everyone likes our hot dogs. Why not get one for everyone right now?
Yes, pizza and pickles. Boy, can't beat that. Drive-in pizza and pickles. I have to chuckle whenever we're taking a look at these old drive-in. I always want to say drive-through. Well, we always take a look at these drive-in bumpers, and some of the food is like, what? I'll have to share the Rico's Nachos once again, because I'm actually running out of different ones to share. But I chuckle at that one because it's like, nachos. Oh my gosh, what are these things? Nachos. All right. So tonight I am going to be unboxing and taking a first look at Vietnam 1965 to 1975 from GMT Games. It is designed by Nick Karp, and artwork is provided by Justin Martinez and Roger B. McGowan. The game is for 2 players, ages 14 and up, plays in 2 hours or more. It's 2 to 100 hours, actually, is what the box says. I saw it. And it does carry an MSRP of $85. And as Scott mentions, he still owns his original copy of the Victory Games release, which we were talking about Victory Games on Monday. And for some reason, I had thought they were like an offshoot of people who'd been with SPI. And it was actually an offshoot of Avalon Hill. So here we go. Here we go. Let's swing on over to the other camera, because here we have Vietnam 1965, 1975. So yes, as Scott points out, yep, he's got the Victory Games release. So from my understanding, this is not a reimagining of the game, that mechanically it's still the same as it was before. Some of the more fiddly parts of the rules have been kind of ironed out, and it has new graphics, I believe. So that is what we're going to be taking a look at. This is something that a lot of people are very excited that GMT produced, because, as I had mentioned as the show opened, This is a game that many, many people feel is the definitive Vietnam War game. It is a bit abstracted. So Scott says, no way, 2 hours. Oh, I'm sure the 2 hour mark is for the like the introductory, let's learn how to play this scenario. All right, let's take a look at the back here. I'm not going to read it. Actually, you know what? Let's get rid of this shrink wrap first. Get rid of that there. And I'm not going to read everything off the back. But take a peek here. Vietnam 1965 to 1975 recreates one of the longest, most complex, and least understood conflicts in U.S. history in all its military and political aspects. The game features hidden VC units, air mobility, riverines, national morale, pacification, ARVN effectiveness, and many other nuances that allow the player to grasp the experience of what it might have been like to conduct the war in Vietnam. The game includes several small scenarios and 2 campaign games. Each year is divided into 4 seasons, spring, summer, fall, and winter, and each season has 2 turns, roughly 6 weeks per turn. The map scale is roughly 6 miles per hex, and units are generally battalions or regiments. I think we've got bigger counters in this. I think we've got some chunkier counters, and I believe the game map is actually divided into 3 maps. We're going to find out. I don't know for sure. I had heard that through the grapevine. So first thing we're going to take a peek at are the rules of play. I recall playing the Victory Games edition a couple of times. I don't recall us ever actually completing a game, but I did find it to be pretty interesting. So we're going to just kind of page through the rules here, kind of discuss some of the aspects of this game that I seem to recall. Now, one of the things that I always thought really made this game stand out is that a lot of the shakier Vietnam war game designs had like a nuclear option. And people have argued with me in the past, well, it was discussed. It was discussed. The U.S. was, considering using tactical nukes. And the reality is that would have never happened. Never. Our allies would have gone bananas. But I've had people, argue with, well, they talked about it. Yeah, it was discussed like everything else is discussed, right? So it's like they have discussions about zombie invasions, right? The zombie apocalypse ain't going to happen, Dooley. So Scott says, Mike McCormick. I remember Mike McCormick. Also, somebody else that we went to high school with. Scott says he and Mike McCormick played all scenarios of the whole game many times. That is a true investment in time. Most definitely. All right. Just kind of take a peek through. This is more of a traditional hex and counter sort of layout, especially with the counters, which I had talked about on the stream where we took a look at Pacific War. If you want to talk about time investment, holy cow. And somebody had commented on Board Game Geek on the video asking, well, what would you do with your ground units as far as making the counters more appealing? And I had pointed out if it's a modern game, because this person, and obviously they're probably an experienced grognard. They had mentioned that they didn't want to see just little drawings of soldiers on every infantry counter, whereas I find the NATO iconography to be rather dull. And also, if we're trying to bring people into the hobby, I've had many, many people tell me that they would be interested in checking out some relatively traditional hex and counter games, but they look so boring. They look boring. So, because they just don't have really any visual pop. Some do, some don't. Like the map for Pacific War looked great. I'm sure this map is going to look fantastic as well. Just the counters tend to be rather bland. So I said an option would be to use divisional insignia. If it's a relatively modern game, you could do that rather than having images of infantry. But yeah, a lot of wargamers out there don't realize that wargaming is a niche of a niche hobby. Even though you see all these, articles from like Forbes talking about board games and things like that, board games and role-playing games are still a niche hobby. They are not like really common everywhere. So Scott says, not as much playing the whole Longest Day. Our running joke for Longest Day, which was an Avalon Hill release, was it's the longest day of gaming. So, I guess they played a lot of GDW modern World War III. I don't recall playing much of that. I remember picking a bunch of them up. I remember actually picking up the miniatures rules that GDW came out with for it was modern in the 80s. Warfare. All right, so just kind of taking a peek through. One thing I can tell you is that this rule book presentation is quite different than the Victory Games one because we have images, we've got examples. I'll take a look to see what complexity GMT is giving this. I will take a guess it's probably a 6. And solitaire suitability, like a 1 or a 2. All right, so rules clock in at 40 pages. And then we've got some of the informational counters on the back. We also get a playbook. And I say it constantly whenever we're taking a peek at GMT releases that have a playbook. I'm a huge fan of the GMT playbooks because almost always we get a nice detailed example of play. And whenever I'm trying to learn a GMT game, I always read the playbook first to just kind of get a feel. I find it easier to learn the GMT releases when I take a look at the playbook first. So here are our scenarios. So we have Operation Starlight. This is our 2-hour scenario. This is an introductory scenario suitable for solitaire play. There you go. It simulates the first major U.S. operation of the war. And it is 1 turn. It is 1 turn. So it's giving us our orders of battle. And then we've got Silver Bayonet, which is Operation Long Reach. That is 2 turns. Both of those are 1965 scenarios. We have the First Volley, which is also a 1965 scenario. Masher White Wing. That is a 2-turn scenario. So these early scenarios are only a couple of turns long. Then we've got Warzone C, and that is 3 turns. Did I just miss one? Yeah. Battle for I-Corps. Also 3 turns. Now we're into 68. Okay, so I am not even going to try to pronounce this. So this is a 5-turn scenario. Then we got the Tet Offensive, which is only 2 turns, starting in 68. The Easter Offensive, that is 4 turns, starting in 72, spring of 72. And the Fall of South Vietnam is a 3-turn scenario, starting in the winter of 1974. Then we got our campaign scenarios. So we have the Battle for South Vietnam, which is 65 to 75. And I don't think this is a separate one. Yeah, I guess it is. After Tet. But it's, I guess that is the second of the campaign games. And we have some info about using the record sheets. And looks like we've got some historical quotes. And then we got some designer notes. Sweet. And these are recent. So this is this is recent. So this isn't from when did this come out originally? 84? Because I could have swore this was out before Pacific War. And weren't we talking about Pacific War came out in 85 on Monday's show? So I think this was 84. Maybe it was 85. I'm sure somebody's going to go take a peek on Board Game Geek and they will let me know. All right. So we've got the rules of play and we also have the playbook. Now let's take a peek at the maps. And surprisingly, they are paper. I would have thought these would have been mounted maps. We'll take a look at those last. Let's grab the counter sheets. And of course, we got our player aids. A couple of 6-sided dice. That game board with the map is going to be pretty big. I'll tell you that right now. Okay. So, of course, we've got some informational. These might be, they're Viet Cong. I was going to say these are like possibly dummy counters. And I'm going to take a guess. These are North Vietnamese. And then, of course, flip the hidden counters. It's going to reveal the units. It's like so. So I'm kind of curious. It's been so long since I played this. It's got to be, oh my gosh, since like 1986, since I saw this game. So I don't remember if it's like step reduction. I think it is. I think it is step reduction as these units take hits. So Scott says the original is matte paper. These are glossy. Yes, there is a treatment on these maps. And I know a lot of people out there are huge fans of paper maps, especially those who live in areas with a lot of humidity, because a lot of times mounted boards warp. Paper maps won't do that. All right, so taking a look at different counters here. So I believe this is like attack strength, movement value. I'm not sure what the little center. Get a little closer up there. Give a little better look at the counters here. Like I said, it's been decades since I peeked at this. And these counters are a little bit bigger than ½ inch. Not a ton. I wouldn't be surprised if they're along the lines of maybe 9/16, because they seem a hair bigger than a ½ inch just eyeballing them. But you'll be able to tell here because we've got some informational counters. Like here, those are ½ inch counters. And if we look at, I'll get that a little bit closer up there. You can see there is a little difference in size. Scott says his edition says 1984. There you go. So this originally came out in 84. All right, so we got some more informational counters here. Scott says that when they were playing, he would pin the paper maps to a slab of cardboard so it could be slid under the bed. Once again, points out it is not a 2-hour game. I think, like I said, I think the back of the box actually does say 2 to 100 hours. So these are just modifiers. Okay, so we've got a couple of combat results tables. So we've got our die roll modifiers, combat results, allocating losses. We've got our terrain effects and air mobile units. So we've got a couple of those, one for each player. Then we also have population control reference sheet. Come on, hearts and minds, everybody. Flaming Heron says, I'm excused for not remembering something from 30 some years ago. Yeah, I know. My memory is actually pretty decent. It is pretty decent. For some strange reason, especially when it comes to gaming. And especially when it comes to role-playing games I've run. All right, so we got morale, got unit costs. There's that population control again. Strategic bombing. What? No nukes? Where are the nukes? Blockade chart. So this covers all the bases. And once again, as I pointed out, it's relatively abstract. It's not going to be like 100% a replay of history, which you don't want anyway. So we have operations flow charts, search and destroy, clear and secure, flow chart, security, and bombardment, and applying casualties. So we've got 2 of those for each of the players. We have a sequence of play. Taking a guess, it's probably just one side. No, it's not. So here we've got the game turn, and then we have the seasonal interphase. We've got the NLF record sheet, which obviously enough, you're going to be making copies of this. John Vogel says they were in Vietnam from 69 to 74 and they had nukes available. Oh, I'm not saying you didn't have nukes available. I'm just saying it's not something that, even though it was discussed, it was not something the United States government would have ever done. All right, so we have the SVN record sheet. Alternate population control sheet. And then we've got our allied holding boxes. Now this should only be one side, I assume. No, it's not. We have a general record track. Okay. Here's a U.S. record sheet. And then we have the NLF holding boxes. There you go. That is only one-sided. All right. So loads and loads of player aids with that. So Scott says he recalled being able to play 2 hours per year almost in a 10-year entire game, probably at least 100 hours playtime for the entire game. That sounds about right. Okay, so here's the first. So, this is what I was kind of talking about before, and I'm not saying it as a knock against any of the traditional hex and counter war games out there. But the map looks very cool. It really does. That has a nice visual look to it. And I can tell you right now, and I know Scott's gonna, I'll put my hand here, and I don't have huge hands, but just to kind of give you an idea of the hex size. But this is way larger than the Victory Games board. Anyway, what I was going to say is this has some visual appeal to it. And then the counters are kind of, and like I said, I know a lot of people dig them. A lot of people like the NATO iconography. It's just not something that jumps out to newcomers to the hobby. So we've got our U.S. eliminated units, Navy holding box, naval points. Got our Arvin Ranger holding box. Invasion status as far as Laos and Cambodia. Start busting out Operation Linebacker. Okay, so here's the SVN population control. I don't know. I don't seem to recall this. I might be completely off base here. I don't seem to recall this section here on the map board. Show you a bit more of the map here. And we should have much of South Vietnam with this last one. Okay. So that looks kind of strange. That is the same. That is the same map. Did I just grab the wrong one? And open it up. Let's take a look. I did. I was going to say, wait a second. Did I get two of the same? Nope. Here's the last one. So we got our free world allies, Korea, Thailand, Australia, Anzacs, and the Philippines. So here we go. So we got Cambodia there. I guess South Vietnam was on the middle. Cool. So we've got leader replacements, ARVN effectiveness, SVN leader loyalty, South Vietnamese leader display. A lot cooking, a lot going on. And as you can see, it's going to take some space because the height of this board will end up being 6 panels, like so. And we're looking at 8 panels wide. So this is right there with Pacific War being a game that you need a very large area in order to set this up. Scott, you'll need a huge piece of cardboard to pin this to. Scott says the Victory game map was 2 feet wide and 5 feet long when it was put together. And the original population control was counters on the map with other units. All right, so we've got all the player aids, all the counter sheets. We've got the 3 different board pieces, map pieces. A couple of 6-sided dice, the playbook, and the rules of play. And that is what we find when we take everything from the new GMT edition of the classic Vietnam 1965 to 1975 outside the box. Once again, this game is for 2 players, ages 14 and up. Let's take a look at the play time. There you go. 2 to 100 hours. Oh, so complexity 7. Well, I got the solitaire suitability right. It's a 2. All right. So, got to be completely honest. I don't know if I'll have a review of this or not. I can certainly go through everything and do a little solitaire play. Try maybe get my nephew Cameron to play some of the shorter scenarios. I'm going to tell you right now, there's no way you're going to see the campaign games get reviewed. So, I'm old already. So, all right, but this looks awesome. Once again, this is available right now. Carries an MSRP of $85. Swing on over to the other camera. I know a lot of people are pumped about this new reprint. It's just kind of cleaned up. It's not revised or anything like that. So it's important that you know that in case folks out there are a little worried about like major changes to the game, which is already considered one of the best Vietnam war games ever designed. So don't worry about that. But as I mentioned with all GMT releases, if you've got any interest in picking this up, don't wait around. Pick it up because I guarantee this print run was a little bit bigger than most GMT games, but they're going to go fast. They will go fast. Flaming Heron says Jeff might not make it through an entire campaign. Yeah, maybe not. Scott says the original said it was for ages 12 and up. Yes, I believe that. I believe that. All right. Anyway, let's see anything else popping in chat here. Needs to be addressed. No. I think we are all caught up. So that was, you'll notice some of the unboxings I've done for the war games this week have been a lot of stream of consciousness, which is like always. But somebody sent me an email and said, hey, how come you're not discussing, zone of control and things like that as you're going through the rule book? It's an unboxing. I don't remember stuff from the game. And I just want to give people kind of a feel for what's in the game. I can't tell you how it's going to play. Anyway, all right. Once again, I do want to remind you, there will not be any episodes of the Gaming Gang Dispatch next week. Taking a little break. Once again, just as a reminder, nothing's going on. Nothing's wrong. Knock on wood. Just every quarter, I take a week off. So I also want to point out that doesn't mean there's not going to be videos on the channel. There's going to be plenty of stuff because I will be shooting videos. Still working on the website. Just I won't have any streaming episodes of the Dispatch next week. All right. So Doug Roberts says you could start Vietnam 1965 to 1975 at age 12 and finish it at your retirement, and then celebrate your retirement and the conclusion of the game at the same time. All right, that is it for this time out. Of course, if you like this video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already, and if you do subscribe, ding that bell. Not only let you know when the Dispatch streams live Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday evenings right here on YouTube at 7 p.m. Central. I'll also let you know when I upload other videos, such as a first look unboxing at Woo-Wee. I think that's how it's pronounced. I don't know. It's from Grey Wolf Games. Seems like this is an abstract title, an abstract strategy game. But I'll tell you what, this box is really heavy. This box has got to be probably like 8 pounds. So I think it's got a lot of plastic pieces in it, possibly. So don't miss out. I will have an unboxing video, a standalone unboxing video. Flaming Heron says, woo way, I would say. Yeah, you're probably right. We already know I can barely speak English. It's my native language. So, all right. Everybody who watched live, thank you kindly. As Sarah D just pops in and says howdy, which means that Mr. Eddie T's probably hanging out. Say hello as well. Anyway, if you were watching live, thank you very much. If you took part in chat, more experience points for you. If you were watching last night, you got to level up. If you missed out, no experience points last night. Anyway, I know a lot of people out there don't have an opportunity to watch live. Doesn't matter if you're watching live or on Memorex. Thank you very much for taking time out of your busy lives to watch any of the videos on this channel. And once again, no shows next week. I will be back the week after that. And of course, until then, I certainly hope each and every one of you gets to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang. Oh, hey, you're still here. Well, if that's the case, by all means, subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel by clicking right here. Check out the latest episode of the Gaming Gang Dispatch, or find out what YouTube recommends you check out from the channel. And of course, once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. Thanks for watching.